Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome. If you're not, thanks for staying. Today we'll be talking about a juicy topic, the cons of teaching in Korea. Now, this topic has been covered multiple times, but this is my personal perspective, just because with my content, I usually like to highlight the good parts of Korea, and I will continue to do so because I feel like there's enough content out there that outlines the negative stuff. But with teaching, I'm no exception. I'm not perfect. I don't always enjoy it. So, if you're thinking about coming to Korea to become an English teacher, these are definitely some things to consider before you make your way out here. Alright, so let's jump right into it. Number one, no sick days. Yes, one thing about the working culture here, and this is not just exclusive to teaching, they will work you to the bone. Like a sick day, I've heard of teachers, I've heard of office workers going to get an IV on their break or when they have time, like an IV drip, and then coming back to work and continuing. Or teachers masking up, and even if they have a terrible fever, etc., that they're still going to go on with their shift. That is unfortunately a reality of working here. Sick days are very rare. At my workplace, thankfully, if you are sick, a substitute will come in, and there are other hagwons. Hagwons are private after school academies, so it's rare, but there are a few places that will allow allows crazy, but if you do fall sick, you can have a substitute. That happened to me recently. I recently had tonsillitis and it was okay. I called in the morning of and they were able to get a sub. Number two, pay is kind of capped. So I personally wouldn't recommend making teaching your bread and butter if you're going to be out here. If you are passionate about teaching and that's always been your thing, that's different. You've studied to be a teacher, you want to be a teacher, that's completely different. I wanted the experience of living in Korea, and I happen to be a good teacher. I pride myself on the way I teach these kids and how patient I am with kids, how loving I am with these kids. So I do enjoy teaching, but I know it's not my end all be all. But yeah, with that being said, I knew already that the pay wasn't going to be sustainable for my own personal goals. So just have that in mind. The next point is your experience with your co-teachers. So if you don't know, when you are teaching in Korea, you get paired up with a Korean teacher. That's usually the case for most hagwons. Your experience, unfortunately, will vary. I've had co-teachers that were sent from heaven and they were so sweet and they give me snacks. My current co-teacher is the sweetest lady, and she's so beautiful inside and out. She always brings me snacks and I always bring her snacks. Wonderful. Or on the flip side, I've also had co-teachers that weren't as patient, weren't as kind, and gave me a hard time for the smallest of things. Okay, if, for example, one thing was graded incorrectly, or I don't know, just tiny things would be blown out of proportion, because the co-teacher, instead of coming to me directly, went straight to the principal and made it a big issue. Things like that. So just have that in mind. Always, we're not perfect, we're human at the end of the day. But I always try to be level-headed at work. Very calm, very level-headed. I'm the type of person and type of teacher where if there's an issue, I will come to you directly about it. And the thing is also with Korean culture, they tend to, not all the time, but they tend to beat around the bush if there's a problem or situation. They are not a very confrontational type, they're not very confrontational at all. So I would say just be aware of that, because if you do confront them in a certain way or in a certain tone, they may take that as like, oh, you're attacking me, essentially. Oh, you're not happy with something I did. Meanwhile, our Western brains, or like wherever you come from that's outside of Asia, our Western brains are like, no, I'm just I'm just confronting you about the situation, but we can work on it together and fix it. But yeah, little things like that, cultural clashes with communication will come into play as well. I have my notes here. The next point is dealing with kids that need a little extra help. What I mean, because I want to be gentle with this topic, because at the end of the day, they're kids, love the kiddos. Dealing with kids that need a little extra help, they have learning disabilities, learning issues, which is normal. You'll find that everywhere. But for some reason, with the amount of experience I have here, I've noticed that some of these parents don't get their kids diagnosed, or they just put the responsibility onto the teachers to deal with it. And, I've never been in the education system elsewhere. Is that a thing elsewhere? I don't know, but I could tell. By the way, I'm not a doctor or anything, but sometimes, like a lot of the times, I can tell when a kid needs extra assistance, or like they're on the spectrum or something. And, it's difficult for them to catch up, or to, I don't know, pay attention in class, symptoms of ADHD, symptoms of autism. And the thing is, it's never communicated directly to the teachers. So we kind of just experience it and deal with it. And we can't really bring it up to the parents because we just don't know. It's kind of very like, with the Korean education system, the parents are number one. Like, we cater to the parents' needs. It's not the other way around, where it's like teachers have the freedom to express every facet of their children's education, behavior, etc. And then we kind of work together to make the child's experience the best it could be. But over here, I find that the parents, what they say goes. My child is perfect. My child doesn't have a learning disability. My child, well, it's your fault that my child's writing is like this, like things like things like that. And that can tend to be very exhausting. Yeah, very exhausting. And, all you could do is be patient. All you could do is allow the student or allow the child, I keep changing, child, student, kid, allow the student to do his or her best with what they have. Yeah, because at the end of the day, I'm not equipped to deal with kids who are clearly on the spectrum. But all I could do is, be patient, show them love, hopefully get them to finish the unit on time, with some extra help, extra guidance, etc. Vacations. Oh, vacations and breaks are kind of already scheduled into your calendar. So taking time off just to take time off doesn't really happen. There are always exceptions. There are always hagwons that, do their best to treat their teachers with the utmost respect, and, treating them like they're human, because we need a break once in a while. No such thing as like wellness breaks. That's the one thing I miss about the Canadian workforce. I love a wellness break. I took advantage of those. But yeah, breaks and vacations are already kind of planned. You take a winter break, you take a summer break. Yeah. So my biggest advice would be to think very clearly about what you want your experience in Korea to be. I know for myself personally, I don't like to talk a lot about my goals to the public. I like to kind of keep them to myself and work on them. But I know for myself, like, teaching is not my end all be all. I kind of want to expand. I'm a very creative person. I want to be a cultural ambassador in some way. And I think if you want to be a teacher in Korea, just be realistic, because there are many resources out there, many videos like this that tell you like, hey, it's not perfect. There are some things that still need to be ironed out, worked out, There are many teachers out here who are exhausted. There are many teachers, after 1 year, 2 years, they go back home because they realize that it's just not worth it. For me, currently, I feel like the work will always be excessive. Like there will always be a lot of work, but I'm very thankful for the fact that I have an amazing co-teacher, that my kids are very sweet, and that if I do fall sick, there are options for me. I don't have to go to work deathly sick. I like my apartment. It's very teeny tiny, but I like it. And I love the area that I'm in because that was a huge factor of me changing my school once again. I love the area that I'm in, so that's also little things like that. Just always have a plan B. Always work to be the best version of yourself, and just know what your goals are for the long term. I think as long as you have that in mind, it's not so daunting, because because there are some weeks, honestly, there are some weeks where I'm just on a loop, where like I'm just going to work, coming home, sleep, going to work, coming home, eating dinner, sleep, and repeat. And if you don't have a long term goal in mind, you will feel like a hamster on a wheel living in Korea as a teacher. So you really do have to have a big why, and yeah, go from there. You really do have to have a big why, otherwise you'll feel burnt out very quickly. I know for me personally, I have my whys, and I also just really love living here. Damn it. Unfortunately for me, I just really love living in Korea. Like I love it down. I love Seoul. I know there are other places besides Seoul, but I love Seoul down. It's my favorite city in the world. So that's also a way I cope with, some of the cons of teaching. Yeah. So I hope this video helped. Definitely, if you're thinking of teaching in Korea, it's not all bad, but just do your research. Please do your research on the blacklisted places. Talk to other teachers. If they are at a place you're interested in, reach out to them. Reach out to me. Send me a DM. My Instagram's in the description. I'm always of the mind to help others, especially teachers that are willing to come out here, because it's not easy. It's not easy to up and leave your home country and move to a new country, and different culture, different everything. So my DMs are always open. That's the least I can do. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any comments or any tidbits, experiences, advice you would like to give, please leave them below. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.